All right, everybody, we are back this time for UFC Fight Night Paris, taking place from the Accor Arena in Paris, France. You have a main event in the 155-pound lightweight division between the number 11 ranked Renato Money Moicano taking on the number 12 ranked hometown hero in Benoit Saint Denis, the God of War. Then, in the co-main event of the evening, you have a battle in the middleweight division between top 10 ranked contenders trying to get one step closer to a crack at the gold at 185 pounds, and the number 4 ranked, again, hometown hero in Nasruddin Imavov taking on the number 8 ranked Kill Cliff trained fighter and Brendan All-In Allen. So without any further ado, let's get this started and step into the ring. All right, everybody, we're back for the Fight Night predictions. These are coming out a little bit late, so they're not going to be as in-depth as some of the other weeks, but maybe that's a good thing for some of you guys. You don't want to sit here and listen to, over an hour of fight breakdowns and things like that, and I get it. Contender Series, we did pretty good. We hit the underdog in Daniel Frunza at plus 180. He got that second round TKO, pretty much exactly how we called it. I think we might have called third round on the podcast. I'm not 100%. But we knew that the guy he was fighting in Kutsi, yeah, he was 17-1, but he had basically one round of cardio. And that's exactly what happened. All we needed was for Frunza to survive the first round. He did. He came back, started landing some good jabs, started working the body shots, started coming up top with a right hand. Actually hurt Kutsi with a right hand in the first round, but got timed with a takedown and then did get dropped with a shot, but it looked like it was more of an off-balance shot and was able to survive the ground and pound. And once we got into that second round, it was the Frunza show all day. Called Kevin Christian by submission. I believe I called a rear naked choke. He ended up getting a triangle. I think if you bet Kevin Christian by submission, it was plus 275. We did also call Kevin Vallejos to get a submission. He got the knockout, but it was an easy win for him. Actually, a lot easier than I expected. I figured that if a finish was going to happen, it would be probably in the second half of the fight, midpoint of the second round going into the third. But that's a reason why I didn't pick Cam Teague. I probably would have picked Cam Teague going up against anybody else. But what's the rule with Contender Series? If these guys were on the Contender Series once before, didn't get the contract, and are given a second chance, there's a 95% probability that they're going to come back and win the second time. And not only win, but probably win by a finish. So that math continues to prove to be correct. That system proves again to be correct. And we did miss on the women's fight with Conceição. We knew that was a close fight. We said it on the podcast. And then in the main event, the 8-1, 9-1 underdog comes through with a first round knockdown to a submission. On the podcast, we did pick Schoenfelder, but I did say that if this fight stayed on the feet, it was a wrap for Schoenfelder, and it didn't take very long. That was a dog or pass situation from a betting perspective. I believe I mentioned that on the podcast as well. If I didn't, then forgive me, but I'm pretty sure that I did if you go back and check it out. We went 3-2. We've got a 68% accuracy rate with the Contender Series through 7 weeks. So with 3 more to go, I want to kill these next 3 weeks and then end the Contender Series prediction rate at over 70%. That's my goal. I wanted 80. It's not going to happen. We had the 1 week that we went 2-3. Could have easily went 4-1, but the split decisions didn't go our way. I believe that the people we picked did enough to win, but you can't get them all, and to lose on split decisions is kind of crazy. Pretty similar situation to picking Jack Duffy as over a 2-1, 3-1 underdog, and him losing a split decision in a fight where I believe he did enough to win against Piccinini. But that's besides the point. We have to look ahead, not behind us, and let's get into the predictions for UFC Fight Night. All right, we're going to kick it off in the lightweight division. We've got a battle between Balaji Oki taking on Chris Duncan. These are two guys who, again, came off the Contender Series. And I'm going to be honest, man, I like Chris Duncan. I've picked him in a lot of fights. But I did pick against him with the likes of Manuel Torres. I just didn't like the forward pressure, the aggressiveness, and the power that he possessed. And it proved to be exactly how the fight went, except we called that fight to end by knockout and ended up ending by submission. Duncan's a very smart fighter. He's very cerebral. He's very tactical. He knows what to do to win, and that's why I like this guy. He's a problem, and it's more because of his fight IQ than his actual overall skill. He's a technical guy. He's very good at point fighting. He's very good at controlling you once he does get you down on the mat. Good takedowns, good top control, good ability to kind of fall off to one side and break your posture, sink the one hook in, land some ground and pound, and get takedowns at pivotal points and vital points in fights to be able to win. He doesn't have the best chin. He doesn't have the best durability. But, I mean, we've seen this guy get cracked and hurt and then come back and get a knockout against Charlie Campbell on the Contender Series after he ate about 20 unanswered punches and then fired right down the middle with that outside foot. Balaji, though, I believe is a pretty difficult matchup for a guy like Duncan. We saw him get taken down and controlled in certain points in the fight against Timothy Kwamba. And that was a fight where I thought Oki would win by a finish. And, you know, Timothy Kwamba could have arguably won that fight, but he lost via decision. But he did have problems with the takedowns. He did have problems with getting taken down and kind of getting controlled in positions where he probably should have been able to work his way back up to the feet. If you look at the grappling stats, he has an 83% takedown defense rate, while Duncan has a 38% takedown accuracy, but he shoots 3.85 takedowns per 15-minute fight. So he pretty much gets about 1 out of every 3 or 4 takedowns, but he's able to control, and even if he doesn't get the takedowns, he'll push you up against the fence and be able to use the positions to control you. I do not think he's going to be able to do that here. I think Oki is too smart, he's too patient, he's too crisp. His straight punches are going to beat the looping, hooks and uppercuts of a guy like Duncan. Duncan is very technical. He's very smart. But I do think Balaji Oki is going to have the counter striking. He's going to have the sharper, crisper, cleaner strikes, whether it's boxing or kickboxing. And I think he's going to be able to work his way back up to the feet, even if Duncan does get some takedowns. I like Chris Duncan. I don't like picking against him too much. But I think Balaji Oki is too crisp, too clean, and too much of a sharpshooter with his counter-striking and his clean technical mixing up of the shots on the feet. I think he's going to be able to get Chris Duncan out of there. I wouldn't be surprised if it went to a decision. I think if it goes to a decision, you probably have a scenario where towards the second half of the second round and into the third, Duncan might be able to take over with takedowns, cage pushing, cage control, and winning the fight based on positional advantages. But I like Balaji Oki here. I think that he is going to be too crisp. He's going to land shots on Duncan, who is a very hittable guy. I think he's going to be able to work his way back up to the feet and land some shots that end up hurting Duncan too much to the point where he's not able to recover because of the shot selection of Balaji Oki. So I'm going to take Balaji Oki to get the job done here against Chris Duncan. I'm going to go with a second round knockout victory for Balaji Oki. I think he's going to hurt Chris Duncan. He's going to put him down, and he's not going to be able to recover. So Balaji Oki, second round TKO. I just think he's too technical for a guy with the style of Duncan. All right, up next, we've got a battle in the flyweight division between Daniel Barez taking on Victor Altamirano. Altamirano's a guy who just kind of wins off of being tough. He's very tough. He pushes forward, throws very awkward combinations, but is able to get good takedowns, good control, and get those takedowns enough throughout 15 minutes to make the rounds very close. But he does get hit. He is very hittable, and I think that's going to be a problem against a guy like Daniel Barez. Now, I picked Barez to beat João Filho, and he was very close to knocking out Filho at multiple points in that fight. This guy's striking is very crisp, very clean. He's a very technical fighter. He manages range and distance very well. Good left hook to the body. Probably one of the best liver shots in the UFC. Very good low kicks, very good 1-2s. His boxing is crisp and clean, and he puts a lot of power behind his shots. He has good switch kicks to the body. He's very good at finding the angles that he needs in order to land the shots that he tries to employ on his opponent. Altamirano, like I said, this guy makes fights close that I don't believe are going to be close. A lot of people believe he did enough to beat Felipe dos Santos. I thought he did too, but the damage was more on the side of Felipe, and the control, the wrestling, and the takedowns was on the side of Altamirano. Now, we've seen Barez get taken down and have trouble once the fight hits the ground, and that's where people who are picking the side of Altamirano are going to that's what they're going to look to, that he can be taken down. Once he got to the ground, he was not able to get back up. He got submitted, and it was a pretty quick submission as well. Now, that was a fight where Barez came in on short notice, and in this fight with a full camp, I think Barez is going to piece up Altamirano. Now, you do have to worry about the takedowns. You do have to worry about Barez getting tired and giving up multiple takedowns. But Altamirano's not that much of a finisher. He's kind of a slow cooker style of fighter. He'll get a bunch of takedowns. You'll work your way back up to the feet. Get some more takedowns. Work your way back up. Land some shots. Get another takedown. And it's kind of a rinse and repeat where he almost breaks you under his pressure without being supremely effective in any one area. He's not the best striker. He's not the best boxer, not the best kickboxer. He's not the best defensively, not the best technically. And Daniel Barez pretty much has him covered in any aspect of the striking, aside from Altamirano getting him tired, making him drop his hands, and then getting hit with some big punches if the cardio doesn't hold up. This is going to be a battle of attrition if we get to the midpoint of the second round and into the third round, where is Barez going to be able to survive the forward pressure, the wrestling, and the takedowns of a guy like Altamirano. But to be honest, I like Barez here. I think Barez is going to be way too sharp for a guy like Altamirano on the feet. We've seen Altamirano survive some pretty sticky situations, but he's won some fights where people believed he shouldn't have won. He's lost some fights people believe he shouldn't have lost. And I think that this guy is just he has too many questions for me to be confident in picking him as a favorite. And just technical-wise, overall, I think the more well-rounded fighter is Altamirano, but I think the better technician, the fighter who manages range better, the fighter who puts his combinations together better, the fighter who's better defensively, I think that all goes to the side of Daniel Barez. And I'm going to side with Barez here to get a finish. I would not be surprised if it got to a decision, but if it goes the distance, it might be the Altamirano show where he's able to get takedowns, he's able to rinse and repeat the forward pressure and the wrestling, and he's able to win a lot of minutes based off of that wrestling approach. So if it goes to decision, don't be surprised if it's a split decision because of the wrestling of Altamirano, but not too much control, and then the striking outweighing the damage, and maybe they give it to Barez. But I'm going to take Daniel Barez here. I like this guy. I think he's pretty good. I didn't love the performance against Frevola when he basically had him dead to rights, but wasn't able to get the finish. I think he finds the finish here against Altamirano. Give me Daniel Barez, late second round TKO. I think he's going to rip the body, rip back up top, and just hurt Altamirano enough to where the ref might have to jump in and call mercy. So give me Daniel Barez to win second round TKO. If it goes to a decision, it might be Barez by split decision. But, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I'm going to go with Daniel Barez as the slight underdog. Give me Barez second round TKO, hurting him with a body shot and following up. All right, up next, a battle in the bantamweight division between Taylor Lapilus taking on the returning Vince Vendetta Morales. This is a fight I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. Look, Morales has put together a lot of wins outside of the UFC. I think he's on a 4-fight, 5-fight win streak. Let me check that out real quick for you. Here we go. So the current record for Morales is 16-7. He's coming off of a 5-fight win streak. He's got a Darce choke in the beginning of round 2 against Teruto Ishihara, who used to compete in the UFC. He's got a decision over Yuki Motoya, a knockout over Joe Panafiel, a Darce choke over Luis Guerrero, and a Peruvian necktie over Hunter Azure, who was on the Ultimate Fighter and I believe was on the Contender Series before. He was a pretty high up prospect in the UFC. Never on the Contender Series, but he fought in the UFC a couple times. He got knocked out by Kelleher, beat Cole Smith, lost a split decision to Jack Shore. So, the guy's not a pushover. He was pretty high up on the prospect list a few years ago for the UFC. Morales is a decent striker. He puts his combinations together well. His boxing is very clean, can throw good combinations. Decent grappler, but does have some issues with the kicking game. We've seen him get stopped by calf kicks by the likes of Chris Gutierrez. And if you can manage your range and your distance, Morales has a hard time in closing that distance and being able to land his boxing combinations, land his uppercuts, land his hooks, and really put it on you. But if he gets on the inside, then that is a problem. I think Taylor Lapilus is going to get a finish in this fight against Morales. Now, the easy thing to say would be Lapilus outpoints him, keeps his outside foot, manages range, manages distance, fires the straight down the middle, fires the check hook, rips the body when the opponent's in the opposite stance, rips the inside low kicks, uses the outside low kicks to circle out, and just dances his way to a victory via decision. I think that this fight is one where Lapilus can get a finish. And, I've picked a finish for him before, but honestly, I've never really sat here and thought like Lapilus was incapable of getting a finish. I think it was just the right time in the right place. He can find a way to get a finish in the UFC, and I think this is the spot here against Morales. No discrediting Vince Morales. All respect to him. He's been on a good win streak. He's done what he needed to do to get back to the big show, but they're not giving him an easy out against Taylor Lapilus. Lapilus is a very, very, very solid competitor. He throws good shots down the middle. He throws the outside leg kicks, the inside low kicks, the straight left hand, good kicks to the body, and I think he can even catch a neck of Vince Morales. He's not known as a grappler. He's not known as a submission artist, but I think that he can hurt Morales enough to where maybe he panic wrestles and Lapilus can grab his neck in a ninja choke or a guillotine or something along those lines. I think the counter striking of Lapilus is going to be too much. I think he's too technical. He uses his angles. He uses his footwork too much. And he also has very, very good takedown defense. Just go back and watch the fight against one of the Basharat brothers and you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. This guy has an elite level skill set. He's clean, crisp, manages range, has good takedown defense, and I believe this is a fight where he can get a finish, either catching Morales with a big counter down the middle, catching him with some good low kicks inside or outside, and working to the best of his ability to get that statement finish in the UFC. I think Lapilus does it here. Could be a decision because he normally fights to decision, and Vince Morales isn't going to quit on himself, but I think the counter striking, the footwork, the angles, and just the ability to land those shots while Morales is coming in is going to be too much. So I'm going to go with Taylor Lapilus to get a finish in this fight. Probably not the most popular opinion on how he gets it done, but I do think he can find a way to get the job done via finish. Give me Taylor Lapilus, second round body kick TKO. I think he's going to hurt him with a shot to the body and kind of make him crumble and then jump on him for a finish. He's in his hometown. He's ready to put on a show. I think this speaks a finish to me. So give me Taylor Lapilus, second round body kick TKO over the returning Vince Vendetta Morales. Up next, we've got a battle in the lightweight division, and it's very similar to the Morales and Lapilus fight, where I think they're just feeding Roosevelt Roberts to the proverbial slaughter. They're leading the lamb to the slaughter with Ludovic Klein versus Roosevelt Roberts. I picked Ludovic Klein as a very slight favorite over Thiago Moises. I also had a bet on Ludovic Klein to get a finish via TKO. I think I might have had the under. There's no reason he didn't finish Thiago Moises, but Moises is tough. Moises stayed in the fire. I don't think Roosevelt Roberts is going to be able to stay in the fire against a fighter who is as crisp, technical, and explosive as a Ludovic Klein. If you're able to do what he did to Thiago Moises, I think you're going to be able to butcher Roosevelt Roberts. Now, Roberts has decent ground game, a decent grappling upside. He's very long. Those long arms can lock up guillotines if Ludovic shoots a bad takedown. If he can use his jab and keep the range and distance, he's going to be able to outstrike Ludovic Klein if he can manage the range. I just don't think he's going to be able to do it. I think Ludovic Klein is better than Roosevelt Roberts in pretty much every area of MMA. I like Roosevelt Roberts. I'm not a guy who hates on him. I think he was good on The Ultimate Fighter. I think he has a decent skill set, but I just think they've matched him, over his head with a guy like Ludovic Klein, and Klein is a minus 800 favorite. Easy pick, just bet Ludovic Klein round 1, round 2, or Ludovic Klein by TKO. You'll get like minus 110, minus 120. I think Klein is going to be able to get those angles, going to be able to use his footwork, and going to be able to snipe Roosevelt Roberts and pretty much land on him wherever he wants. Now, I think Roosevelt Roberts is much better than an AJ Cunningham, who they fed Ludovic Klein before, but I think it's going to be a very similar fight where Roosevelt Roberts is going to get hit to the body, he's going to get ripped apart, his legs are going to get destroyed, he's going to get hit up top to the head with the check right hooks, the left hand, the head kicks. I think he's going to get pieced up, and I think the ref's going to call mercy. I'm going to go second round knockout for Ludovic Klein. I just think he's better than Roosevelt Roberts. You guys can tell what the UFC's doing here. I can tell what the UFC's doing here. They're trying to get that statement finish for Klein, coming off of a win over Moises, who I believe Moises would beat a guy like Roosevelt Roberts. Even with his age now, I think he's better than Roosevelt Roberts in pretty much any area aside from, Roosevelt using his jab, using his range management, using the long strikes and catching you coming in with knees and elbows. But I think Klein's going to be able to find those angles. He's going to be too fast for Roosevelt Roberts. He's going to tear up his body, tear up his legs, and I think he's going to get an attritional finish via TKO. I kind of expect him to just run over Roosevelt Roberts. So give me Ludovic Klein, second round TKO. I'll go first in this one. I'm going to go first round TKO. I think he's going to land early, land often, and I think he's going to put Roosevelt Roberts down. Give me Ludovic Klein, first round TKO over Roosevelt Roberts. All right, up next we have a battle in the light heavyweight division between Umar Sy taking on Da Un Jung. Sy being the brother of a former champion in PFL in Sadabu Sy. I don't know if everybody knew that, but one of the Sy brothers is in PFL, one of them is in the UFC. We don't know too much about Umar Sy. We know that he's a good grappler. We know he gets good takedowns. We know he'll go for submissions once he's on the ground. I believe he's going to be at a disadvantage against Da Un Jung when it comes to the striking on the feet. I know he got pieced up, outlanded by Carlos Ulberg. He got hit with a bunch of shots. Does have a win over Kennedy Nchukwu, who I think is a more well-rounded mixed martial artist than Umar Sy, but I believe the grappling and wrestling is just going to be too much for a guy like Da Un Jung, who got submitted in the last seconds of the fight against Carlos Ulberg, who never goes for submissions. He got taken down, got controlled, got submitted, and that's a guy who doesn't have a high-level wrestling game. That's a guy who doesn't have high-level grappling, and that is not what you're going to get with Umar Sy. Umar Sy has good takedowns. He has good control. He's able to get you down. He's able to move from position to position and get to the position before he sets up the submission. Now, do you want to trust him as a big favorite? Probably not. I wouldn't say go bet the house on Umar Sy. I wouldn't say go bet the house on Umar Sy inside the distance. But I do think he's going to use his wrestling, use his superior jiu-jitsu, and his superior ground control to find a finish in this fight against Da Un Jung. I think he's going to be able to take him down. If the fight stays on the feet, Da Un Jung is live. He's long, he's explosive, he throws good combos. He does have the power to knock out a guy like Umar Sy. I just think Sy is going to be able to close the distance, get those takedowns, and control him once the fight hits the mat, which I believe is going to be an inevitable thing in this matchup. I think Sy is going to get those takedowns. I think Sy is going to be able to control Da Un Jung once it hits the mat. I think it might be worth taking a shot on Umar Sy by TKO. I think it might be plus 400, plus 350. A lot of people are expecting the submission. He's in his hometown. I believe he's from Paris. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, it says right here. I would not be surprised if he flattened him out on the ground and landed ground and pound and the ref stopped it. I wouldn't be surprised if he got to the full mount and got a bunch of ground and pound and got a finish that way. I think Umar Sy does get the finish here. I think it is on the ground, but I'm going to go play devil's advocate here, and I'm going to say Umar Sy by second round TKO. A lot of people are going to be expecting the submission. I think he's going to want to make a statement in his hometown. Would not be surprised if he took a neck. Wouldn't be surprised if he took a rear naked choke, an arm triangle on the ground. But I think he's going to get to a top position, flatten him out, and land ground and pound until the ref stops it. Give me Umar Sy to defeat Da Un Jung via second round ground and pound TKO. Would I be surprised if Da Un Jung clipped him on the feet? No. Da Un Jung definitely has the power and the technicality with his hands to clip a guy like Umar Sy. Him being such a big favorite with the limited amount of tape and research that we're able to do on a guy like Sy, probably not the best play, but I do think he gets the job done. I think the grappling is going to be too much, but I think it's going to be the positional grappling and positional dominance that leads to a ground and pound finish for Sy. So give me Umar Sy to defeat Da Un Jung via a second round ground and pound TKO in this fight. Alright, next fight up is in the lightweight division between Barez, the Smile Killer Ziam, taking on Matt the Steamroller Frevola. This is one I see a lot of back and forth on how this fight's going to play out. I see a lot of back and forth on, is Steamroller going to use his awkward striking and his heavy power with his hands and his superior wrestling to win the fight? He might be able to. Ziam got put in positions that weren't that great against Jai Herbert, who just pushed up against the cage, controlled in the double unders, controlled in the over unders, controlled with the hooks or the body locks, and he also got out wrestled by Claudio Puelles and got taken down multiple times in that fight. However, the damage that was dished out throughout the fight, the fighter who came closer to finishing the fight overall was Ziam. But going to a split decision against a guy like Claudio Puelles, it doesn't leave a great taste in your mouth. Going up against a guy like Matt Frevola, I believe the better technical fighter in this matchup to be Ziam. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. He uses a good jab, a good check hook. He has decent takedown defense. If you look at the overall stats, he only has a 67% takedown defense, but his takedown defense isn't that bad. And Frevola only has a 40% takedown accuracy rate. This is a fight where you can kind of make a coin flip where Ziam is much more technical. He uses his range, he uses his reach a lot better, and he probably could clip a guy like Frevola coming in, but Frevola is a guy who has been knocked out. He's been knocked out early, got head kicked by Benoit Saint Denis, got put down by Terrence McKinney in the first round, but that was just kind of, getting caught cold. And I think Ziam has the power and the technicality to catch a guy like Frevola early, but the later this fight goes, I think it goes to the side of Matt Frevola. I think Frevola can build and build and build, and he does have a knockout victory over Drew Dober. Dober, before the Frevola fight, had never been TKO'd, I believe, only submitted. And then after that, he only got TKO'd by the likes of Gene Silva, and it was with a spinning back elbow or a back fist, something like that, that cut him, and it was stopped due to a doctor stoppage in between the second and the third round. I think that you look at the strikes absorbed per minute, 1.72 for Ziam, 3.57 for Matt Frevola. Frevola is the guy who's going to have the better cardio. Frevola is the guy who's going to be able to push a higher pace than Ziam over 15 minutes. But I don't think Ziam has that bad of takedown defense. I don't think Ziam is going to be at a disadvantage on the feet unless he leaves himself open. I wouldn't be surprised if Frevola took over late and was able to kind of wear out Ziam with his style, push him against the cage, go for constant takedowns, go for inside and outside trips, control them on the mat. I think Frevola is more than capable of winning this fight, but I also think on the same side that Ziam is more than capable of catching Matt Frevola coming in and knocking him out as well. He's not the same level of striker as a Drew Dober in terms of power, but he's very clean. He uses that check hook very well, the step back check hook. He uses good counter strikes and can catch you coming in. And I think that's something that Frevola is going to have to be weary about, because I would not be surprised if he got clipped on the way in and got put down. I wouldn't be surprised if he got caught with an elbow off the break and got put down. Frevola is a durable guy, but we have seen him get finished before, and we have seen him get finished multiple times. But we've also seen him put down multiple fighters and finish them as well. I think this is a fight where it's kill or be killed. The later the fight goes, it goes to the side of Frevola, who has the higher level UFC experience and can push a pace, but is also a finisher. But I think early on, it goes to the side of Ziam because of his technicality, his length, his reach, and the ability to use his length and reach along with very solid, crisp, and clean technical striking. I'm kind of torn on this one. I've been going back and forth. I think this is a very tough fight to call. I could easily see Ziam getting the knockout here. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go against the grain. A lot of people are on Frevola. I think the technical striking of Ziam is going to be too much for Frevola, and I think Frevola is going to get caught and get finished. Give me Ziam to win this fight via a third round TKO. Well, I said if it goes late, then it probably goes to the side of Frevola. You know what? I'll go out on a limb. Give me Ziam first round knockout. I think he can catch Frevola cold. I think he can catch him coming in. I think he can catch him with an uppercut up the middle. I think Frevola is there to be hit. He's tough. He's durable. He's a very solid guy. But I'm going to go with Ziam. I think he gets the job done here. Give me Ziam first round TKO over Matt the Steamroller Frevola, where the Steamroller is the one who gets steamrolled. And I don't think a lot of people are going to be expecting it, but I think the technical striking, the length, and the reach of Ziam is going to catch Frevola in that first round. Give me Smile Killer Ziam first round knockout over Matt Frevola. All right, next fight up is in the featherweight division. You got a battle between Morgan Charriere, the last pirate, taking on the Fly, Gabriel Miranda. I'm going to keep this one short again. I think Morgan Charriere shows out, and I think he knocks out Gabriel Miranda within the first 2 rounds. He's much better on the feet, much cleaner, much more crisp, uses very good mixtures of kicks with front kicks, side kicks, front teep kicks to the body, that little stabbing teep kick that he was able to drop Manolo Zucchini with. Miranda's live for a submission. He's always live for a sub. That's how he was able to get Shane Jung out of there, was able to find a way to take the back, jump on his back, and submit him. But going off the fight I saw with Morgan Charriere and Chepe Mariscal, I believe Mariscal lost that fight. I thought Morgan Charriere should have won that fight 2-1. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was a split decision because Chepe did come on strong in that third round, but I like Morgan Charriere. I think this dude's the truth. I think this guy's legit, and I think he's going to get a big finish victory in his hometown in Paris, France. There's not much to think about. If you're on the side of Miranda, you think he's going to be able to win a scramble, beat an over-aggressive Morgan Charriere, and be able to find his neck or be able to find his back and get a submission. That's definitely live, and I think Miranda is pretty much submission or bust. But I've seen this guy get hurt. I've seen this guy get rocked. I've seen this guy get knocked out. I've seen this guy get hurt in multiple fights before. He is live, like I said, to find his way to the back in a scramble, find a way to take the neck, find a way to maybe fall off and get an armbar. But to be honest, I think Morgan Charriere is going to piece him up on the feet. I think he's going to finish him within the first 2 rounds. I'm going to go Morgan Charriere to get the job done via first-round knockout over Gabriel Miranda. I think Charriere's legit. I think he's for real. I think that Chepe Mariscal fight showed you how good he really is. And I think Morgan Charriere is going to be a problem in his next couple fights. You're really going to see how good Charriere is after this statement finish he gets against Gabriel Miranda. I'm going Morgan Charriere, the last pirate, to get the job done via first round TKO, maybe second round in the first 2 rounds, but I'll go first round. First round TKO against Gabriel Miranda. I think he's going to piece him up, hurt him, rip to the body, hurt him up top, and land his unorthodox strikes on the chin of Gabriel Miranda. So give me Morgan, the last pirate, Charriere, to get the job done via first round TKO over Gabriel Miranda. Up next, you got a battle in the welterweight division between Kevin Jousset, who comes in with a record of 10-2, taking on Brian Pooh Bear Battle, who comes back with a record of 11 wins and only 2 defeats. Let me make sure I have that record correct. Yes, 11-2-1, 10-2 for Kevin Jousset. This is a good fight. This is one of the best fights on the card, and I think we're really going to see who's going to be the next bright prospect at 170 pounds between these 2 fighters. Jousset is a judo black belt, I believe. I believe he is. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but he's got decent grappling. He just doesn't ever really use it. He's going to be 6'2" with a 75-inch reach, and he knows how to use his reach decently well. But I will say he likes to stay in the pocket and trade too much, to the point where he gets hit and clipped in a lot of those fights. Look at the fight with him and Song Kenan. Now, Kenan's a veteran. Kenan's a good striker. He's mainly a boxer. But, he's able to land good shots, even on Kevin Jousset. Jousset's a lot longer. He uses his reach, or should use his reach better, and he still was in a range where he was able to get hit more times than he should have against Song Kenan. Now, he clearly won that fight, clearly won the fight via decision, but I think a lot of people went into that fight thinking that Jousset was going to be able to put down a guy like Song Kenan. But we saw how durable Song Kenan was in his last fight, where he was able to make it the full distance, but still lose via decision. I think Brian Battle is coming into his own. I think we're in the prime of Pooh Bear. This is the Pooh Bear prime, and I'm not talking about the energy drink. I think Battle is getting better and better and better with every single fight that he has. Now, you could say the same thing about Jousset. Jousset is, long. He uses a good check hook, a good 1-2 down the middle. He has a good counter right hand. Not the best defensively, though. He can get hit. He can get clipped. He can get hurt. I don't think Brian Battle's the best defensive fighter either, but I do think he mixes up his game better than a guy like Kevin Jousset. I think he can use the grappling better than Jousset. I know Jousset's a judo black belt, has submissions, was able to get a submission over Kiefer Crosby, but Crosby is not the level of a Brian Battle when the fight hits the mat. I think even if Jousset goes for submissions, I think Brian Battle can survive and defend it. Battle lost to Renat Fakhretdinov, but was able to make it the full distance against a guy who dropped him, hurt him, rocked him, but wasn't able to get the finish in that fight. Wasn't able to TKO him, wasn't able to get a submission. And since then, we've seen Battle come in and look great. The head kick knockout that he had in the first round, the submission over AJ Fletcher. He did get hurt in that fight as well, in close, inside the clinch, but that's not the style that Jousset is going to be, employing. He's going to use his length. He's going to use his reach. He's going to try to keep him on the outside, use his jab, use the check hook, move on angles, 1-2, counter the jab of Bryan Battle with his right hand, move around, throw front kicks to the body, throw body kicks. I think Battle is going to be willing to get into those exchanges with Jousset, and I think it's going to be kind of similar to the Song Kenan fight, but it's going to be to the point where Battle is getting the better of those exchanges the longer that this fight goes. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight goes the distance, but I think Battle can find a way to get a finish here. I'm going to take Bryan Battle by TKO. I think at this point in their career, Jousset is not an easy fight. He's long, he's lengthy, he has decent jiu-jitsu, he uses good takedowns, inside and outside trips, but Battle is, he's leaned down, he's slimmed out, he's able to throw good combinations, he has knockout power, and he has jiu-jitsu that he showcased in the fight against AJ Fletcher and was able to take the back and get a submission. He can knock you out, he can submit you. Now, Jousset has done the same thing, but I think the level of competition is higher on the side of Bryan Battle. We've also seen, however, that when he takes some of those steps up in competition, he tends to lose that fight, like the fight against Rinat Fakhretdinov. But I think this is going to be the Fakhretdinov Bryan Battle situation for Kevin Jousset. Bryan Battle is going to be the Fakhretdinov to Kevin Jousset. I think Jousset is going to get hit with a lot of counters. I think Jousset is going to get clipped. Would not be surprised if Jousset caught him and hurt him and rocked him. Wouldn't surprise me. But I think Bryan Battle is going to be able to show out again here, and I think he's going to be able to put it on Jousset in the second and third round. I think he's going to be able to get a finish. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to be a submission. I'm not sure if it's going to be a knockout, but I think the pressure and the combinations of Bryan Battle, paired with the really solid wrestling and jiu-jitsu of Battle, especially if he's able to find the back, I think he's going to be able to get Jousset out of there. I'm going to go with Bryan Battle. Give me Bryan Pooh Bear Battle to defeat Kevin Jousset. I'm going to go with a second round ground and pound TKO. Could potentially be a rear naked choke, but I think he's going to find a way to get the finish against Jousset, and I think Jousset will come back and be better. Would not be surprised if Jousset clipped Bryan Battle and hurt him. Like I said, we've seen Bryan Battle get hurt, but he's tough, he's durable, he stays in the fight, and I think Battle is going to have a big speed advantage in this one, even in the striking, where Jousset is thought to be much better. So give me Bryan Pooh Bear Battle to get the job done via a late second round ground and pound TKO or a submission. I'm going to go with a rear naked choke. Give me Bryan Battle's late second round rear naked choke submission over Kevin Jousset. I like Battle in this spot, and I think we're going to see Battle keep getting better. All right, next up, you got a battle in the featherweight division. In the featured bout of the evening, you have, again, the France native in William Gomis taking on Joe Anderson Brito. 17-3-1 for Brito, 13 wins, 2 losses for Gomis. When I look at this fight realistically, I mean, I know that Gomis is going to be the more technical fighter. Like, if we're looking at a technical point fighting style of fight, then Gomis is going to win that 9 out of 10 times. But that's the thing, Brito doesn't really allow you to point fight unless you gas him out to the point where he doesn't have the chance to come back into the fight and land anything significant or grab your neck with a bad takedown or anything like that. You know, we saw in the Jonathan Pierce fight, he got taken down, he got controlled for a decent amount of time, and then eventually he just left his neck out there for too long, and Brito was able to snatch up that ninja choke and finish him off very quickly. He goes in against Andre Fili, who is thought to be one of his toughest matchups in his career, and he knocks him out with an overhand right with about 30 seconds into the first round. He goes in against Jack Shore, and he finishes him with a leg kick TKO, where he built up so much pressure in his legs that it ended up splitting his shin completely open from even just checking the kick of Brito. Or I think Brito checked his kick and then his shin split open. But this is going to be a fight of aggression, forward pressure, and power versus technique, point fighting, distance measurement, and finesse. And I really just don't think Gomis is going to be able to win a fight against a guy who's as aggressive, as heavy on the forward pressure, as a guy like Joanderson Brito. Brito is technical in his own right, but everything he throws is with bad intentions. Big left hooks, big overhand rights. I mean, this guy comes forward and looks to kill you from the minute the fight starts to the minute the fight ends. But he's not only a striker, he has Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He has decent guard work. He'll go for guillotines. He'll go for ninja chokes. And he will threaten you with submissions, even if you do take him down. But at the same time, he's not an easy guy to take down once you get to the mat. You know, I think that Gomis is probably the more seasoned wrestler, but I think there's a point where Brito might be the better, grappler. But I don't think we're really going to need to see it. I think it's going to be a striking matchup, and it's either going to be Brito coming forward, closing the pocket, and crashing the distance, or it's going to be Brito running into big counters from the southpaw in Gomis, straight left hand. Big body kicks. The body kicks will be open. He's going to be throwing heavy body kicks, heavy 1-2s, throwing head kicks, and he is going to be the cleaner, more technical striker. I just don't really think it's going to matter in this matchup, and I think Joanderson Brito's style works perfectly for him, and it's going to be hard for Gomis to stay calm, stay patient, and stay technical against a guy like Joanderson Brito. Now, Brito got tired in the fight with Bill Elgio, and he did end up getting finished in that fight. But in this fight, I think Brito wins, and I think Brito wins via finish. I could be a submission, but I think he ends up crashing the distance and closing the pocket and landing a big bomb on the chin of William Gomis and putting him down. I think Joanderson Brito wins this fight. I think Brito wins this fight by knockout, and I think he's not going to allow for Gomis to maintain his distance and range. So I'm going Joanderson Brito. I'm going to go Joanderson Brito second round knockout. I think he catches him with a big hook or catches him with one of his overhand rights, puts down Gomis and doesn't allow him to recover. So give me Joanderson Brito second round knockout over William Gomis in this fight. Now we're at the co-main event of the evening in the middleweight division. You have a battle between Nasruddin Imavov taking on Brendan All-In Allen. This is a good fight, man. These are two guys that I can't seem to get 100% read on. I don't pick against Imavov quite often. I did with the Cannonier fight. It looked like we were going in the right direction early, but then Cannonier eventually just got caught in that fourth round and, got finished. Was it a great stoppage? No. But do I think if the ref let it continue that Cannonier probably would have got finished? Yes, I still think he stopped it early, but I do think that we were on our way to an Imavov finish either later on in that fourth round, or in the beginning of the fifth round. I think Imavov is the much sharper striker than Brendan Allen, but I really think the biggest difference in this matchup is, number one, the grappling, top control, and submissions of Brendan Allen, and number two is the defensive responsibility of a guy like Imavov. I think, technique for technique, Allen is a good striker. He's got a good 1-2, a good jab. Even when he gets hit, he's pretty good now at returning with shots. So, you might land a 1-2, he might just immediately come back cross hook. You might land a jab, he immediately might pull and come back with his own right hand. He's got really good body kicks, especially against an opposite stance fighter. He's very good at throwing that rear kick to the body. So if Imavov is southpaw or Allen is orthodox and their opposite stance trying to get that outside foot, because I do expect Imavov to switch stances between southpaw and orthodox, I think that rear body kick is going to be there for Brendan Allen, and he's always very good at that rear body kick. However, I think Imavov is one of those guys who can close the distance and can fire that big right hand down the middle, can fire that big straight down the middle, can come back with good check hooks. He measures his distance and manages distance very well. I think Allen is probably at the top of his game in terms of his striking at this point in his career, but even in his last fight against Chris Curtis, he almost got knocked out a few times in that fight, but he was able to make the right decisions, which shows improvements to his fight IQ, and get takedowns off the forward pressure of Curtis, control him on the ground, shoot for takedowns and take the back and push him up against the cage, jump on his back, go for a body triangle. And we saw early in Imavov's career, he had a lot of trouble with the wrestling against a guy in Phil Hawes. And I do believe that Allen is going to have the advantage on the ground. I do think he'll have the wrestling and jiu-jitsu advantage, but I don't think it's going to be that easy for Brendan Allen to take down Imavov, and I think that most of the takedowns are going to get stuffed, and I think we're going to be stuck with a striking matchup. And even though I think Brendan Allen has gotten a lot better in his striking, even though I think he's very good, his shots are very technical, his shots are very clean, I think it's the defensive flaws in Brendan Allen, where even in fights where he looks good, he still gets hit. He's gotten better at taking shots, but I don't think he wants to stand and trade with a sharpshooter like Imavov. Now, I don't think Imavov is a knockout artist per se. I don't think he's known for knockout power. I don't think that he, has one-shot knockout power, but I think he's a guy with the technicality, fight IQ, and overall striking game that he has. He's a guy where if he hurts Brendan Allen, he's going to be able to find the shots to pick him apart and kind of find that finish with one of his shots. It's going to be a good uppercut to the body. Uppercut, left hook, 1-1-2, circle him against the cage, left hook, right hand. And the one thing I didn't like is if you go back and you watch the Chris Curtis and Brendan Allen fight, he was consistently circling towards the power side of Chris Curtis, which is why I was very surprised Curtis wasn't able to knock him out. Now, he was cutting off the punches by staying a little bit further out, landing good kicks to the body, throwing back combinations of his own. But for the majority of that fight over 5 rounds, he was consistently circling towards the power side of Curtis. Now, Curtis is a southpaw. Imavov will switch stances, southpaw orthodox, but Imavov's a guy where if you continue to circle towards that power side, he will eventually catch on and he will find his openings and find his counter shots. And that's one thing that I think the technicality, the fight IQ, and the overall technical skill of Imavov on the feet, I think is going to showcase the flaws in the footwork and the defense of Brendan Allen on the feet. I think if anybody can expose it, it is a guy like Imavov, and I also think if anybody can expose the defensive flaws of Imavov on the ground with, takedown defense, positional awareness on the mat, submission defense, ability to take the back, I think it's Brendan Allen. So it's a coin where, heads is Imavov exposing the striking defense and the striking flaws, where on the ground, Brendan Allen can expose the flaws in the ground game, the jiu-jitsu game, and the defensive jiu-jitsu of a guy like Imavov, even though Imavov is pretty good on the feet. You're going to ask me who I'm going to pick, and honestly, I'm going to go with Imavov. I'm going to go with the favorite. I think he's going to be able to find a finish in the second or third round. He's not known as being a huge finisher, but I do think against a guy like Allen, who's been clipped, who's been rocked, who's been hurt in multiple fights, against a guy in Imavov who we've never really seen get hurt or wobbled in his UFC career, and if he has gotten hurt or wobbled, he's been able to come back from it pretty easily, so I think that he's also got better recoverability than a guy like Allen. He's got better fight IQ, he's better defensively on the feet, and I think his takedown defense has improved since that fight with Phil Hawes to the point where he's going to be able to expose Allen, where if he hurts him, he's not going to rush the finish and allow for a big counter takedown. He's going to be able to find his shots, pick his shots, and land shots that are going to eventually cause the ref to jump in or cause Allen to drop and allow for a late TKO. I am going to go with a third round TKO for Nassourdine Imavov. Would I be surprised if he got taken down and got controlled, potentially got submitted by Brendan Allen? No. Would I be surprised if Allen had some success on the feet, landed that body kick while being in the opposite stance? No, I would not, but I'm going to go with Imavov. I think he's better. I think he has better fight IQ. I think he's better defensively, and I think he is going to exploit the defensive mistakes of Allen on the feet probably better than almost anybody that Allen has fought. So I'm going to go with Nassourdine Imavov for a third round TKO in the co-main event of the evening, and yeah, I think Imavov's going to look really good here. And now we are at the main event of the evening. In the lightweight division, you have a battle between Renato Moicano, or Money Moicano. Comes in with a record of 19-6-1, coming off of that TKO finish after almost being knocked out himself against Jalen the Tarantula Turner, and he's taking on a man who's returning from a loss to Dustin the Diamond Poirier at UFC 299 in the God of War, the hometown dude in Benoit Saint Denis. Obviously, we know Imavov in the co-main event is a hometown guy for Paris, France as well, or at least for France. Looking at this fight, man, I think it's a little bit harder to really break down than people are expecting. I think if we get to the third, fourth, and fifth round, that the cardio of Moicano will be a lot better than a guy like Saint Denis. And I'm not just saying that because of how tired he looked in the fight against Dustin Poirier, because I think he clearly had a staph infection. If I knew that before betting on that card, I would have bet on Dustin Poirier. I picked Benoit Saint Denis. I picked Saint Denis by a submission finish. It started off in the way that we thought, but He obviously had staff. If I knew that, I would have tried to cancel my bet, but some you can, some you can't. Or even cash out for a slight loss and put it on something else, because once I knew he had staff, all my confidence in Saint Denis went right out the window. And that was going into the fights before the fights even started. I think Moicano and Saint Denis, I think the wrestling of Saint Denis is better, but I think the jiu-jitsu, the positional awareness, and the submissions of Moicano are better than Saint Denis. He's got much better jiu-jitsu than a guy like Benoit Saint Denis. On the feet, I think the better technical striker is Renato Moicano, because it's not the technical skill of Benoit Saint Denis that gives people so much trouble. It's more just the forward pressure, the power, the big lead head kicks, the power body kicks from southpaw, ripping the body, ripping up top to the head. He's a very powerful guy. Big straight punches, big hooks, big uppercuts, but he's never impressed me with his striking. He just impresses me with his will to win and his forward pressure. I really don't think Benoit Saint Denis is that good. When it comes to overall technical skill, I don't think Saint Denis is that great of an actual technical fighter who has real good technical skill. I think Moicano is the much better technical fighter, both on the feet and on the ground. It's just going to be the case of, can Moicano catch Saint Denis coming in with his pretty awful defense, or can Moicano survive the early storm, tire out Saint Denis, and then be able to land his takedowns, then be able to land, his knees inside the clinch, his elbows, his 1-2s. Moicano's a guy who's been knocked out before. He's been finished. Even in fights where he didn't get finished, he's been dropped really bad, just like in the Jalen Turner fight. It looked like he was knocked out, going into that second round when Turner dropped him, but he didn't follow up because he thought it was going to be a walk-off KO. It wasn't, and he ended up getting finished. I think if Saint Denis drops Moicano, he's not going to allow him to get the chance for that recoverability. But I also think Saint Denis leaves more openings than a guy like Jalen Turner. I think he's much worse defensively than people will actually pay attention to. Everybody thinks this Saint Denis guy is so good. He's so great. He's such a good striker. He's not really a good striker. He's not really an amazing, wrestler, but he can get takedowns. He does use a lot of forward pressure, and this guy just continues to push you back. Benoit Saint Denis is the master of making you uncomfortable. However, when it comes to competition level, Moicano has fought a much higher level of competition, in my opinion, aside from Saint Denis fighting Dustin Poirier, where, yes, he did have staff, but at the same time, it coincidentally was also one of his only losses in his career, aside from Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos, and he didn't just lose, he got finished via TKO. In the fight against Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos, the ref should have stopped it. It should have been a TKO, but he allowed Saint Denis to continue to get beat up, blasted, and hurt. The one thing I believe that we haven't seen from Saint Denis is, can he come back from adversity? Can Saint Denis recover from adversity? Because he didn't recover in the fight against Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos. The ref just failed to stop it. And he also didn't recover from the, finishing sequence and the momentum swing that Poirier was able to, employ on him in round 2, which led to that straight left hand to the counter right hook and the knockout victory. He got dropped and he got finished. I think this fight is actually very close to call, and I know a lot of people are going to immediately jump on the favorite in Saint Denis, being that it's in Paris, being that, it's the hometown of Saint Denis, but I think once this fight gets into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, I think we're going to see the cardio of Moicano take over. It's really just a fact of, can he survive the early storm, or will Saint Denis put him down and finish him early? Because I think Saint Denis' only win condition is finishing him within the first 10 minutes. When we get to that 12-minute mark, when we get to the 15, the 20, the 25 minutes, yes, Moicano isn't, a 5-round fighter per se, but he did go 5 rounds with Rafael dos Anjos, and he almost got finished and almost got destroyed in that fight, and then came back and landed some good shots of his own. So we've seen Moicano be able to push cardio late. I don't necessarily think that Saint Denis has the cardio to push late. I think this fight's really tough. I think it being in Paris, you would just naturally have to lean a little bit towards the God of War and Benoit Saint Denis, but I also think Moicano's better technically. And I don't know who has the worst chin. I really don't, because I think both of these guys are liable to getting finished. Both of these guys are liable to getting hurt. Both these guys are liable to getting dropped. And both of these guys are liable to finish somebody with a submission. I think if anybody gets a submission finish, it's probably Renato Moicano. I'm having a lot of trouble picking this fight, honestly. Originally, I was leaning towards one direction. Then I flipped to another direction. I don't know, man. This is tough. This is really tough. You know what? Just because... Oh, man, I don't know. Let me think. Man. All right, you know what? I'm gonna go with Benoit Saint Denis. I'm gonna go with Saint Denis. I want to pick Moicano, but I just worry that he's not going to be able to survive the early storm of Saint Denis. Betting perspective, if I was going to bet on it, I would throw money on Moicano for like a 3rd, 4th, or 5th round finish. Probably TKO. I think he probably finishes it via TKO. I might even throw a little bit of money on him to finish by TKO. But based on the fact that it's in Paris, I'm going to go with Saint Denis. I'm going to go Benoit Saint Denis to get a 2nd round TKO victory. I think he hurts Moicano, doesn't allow him to recover. It's just too mean and too physical for a guy like Moicano. So my official pick is the God of War Benoit Saint Denis to win in the main event of UFC Paris via 2nd round TKO. But I would not be surprised if Moicano won. And from a betting perspective, I almost feel like the betting side is Moicano for a late finish. But I'm going to go Saint Denis. It's in Paris. I just have that feeling. I'm going to go Benoit Saint Denis 2nd round TKO. I might regret this pick, but I got to stick with what I got, and I'm going Saint Denis. That's going to be it for my UFC Fight Night Paris. Moicano versus Saint Denis. Saint Denis versus Moicano. Preview, predictions, and breakdown. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit a big flying knee on the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads from the premier mixed martial arts and pro wrestling channel on YouTube. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out.